Welcome to Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France. Today's second stage started at Perros Guirec and went to Vitre, a distance of 235 kilometers. The yellow jersey this morning belonging to Jackie Durand, although the winner of yesterday's first stage was Fabian Baldato of Italy. There are a lot of sprint bonuses available today. Roland Jalabert at this stage has already more or less guaranteed himself the yellow jersey for tomorrow, due to picking up point and time bonuses today. Two men out today, Roberto Conti of Italy, the winner of the L'Alpe d'Huez, and Eddie Seigneur, the French champion, both injured during today's stage. Coming into the closing stages, two riders had escaped 60 kilometers before the finish. They were Frans Massene of Holland and Eric van der Aarden of Belgium.
The main group still in hot pursuit. They're pulling back that little gap slowly but surely on our two leaders who went away just about, well, let's look at my watch here. They've been gone now in the lead for about half an hour. They've been away, Martin and van der Aarden stretched out the front, and the Once team were just nibbled away at it. It's around about 40 seconds now. It was 1 minute, so they're getting more and more within striking distance.
Well, they haven't yet actually turned the power on, because you can see behind them they're still very much grouped. Whereas if you remember, if anyone was watching us yesterday in the final, when the speed got up, it got faster and faster, and there's just one line of riders. Whereas when the speed really goes up, there's just one line, and that's it. Whereas you can see the bunch now is fairly compact behind them. So I think we'd like this for another while now, until the real sprinters like Cipollini's team gets in the front. Cipollini has a genuine chance of winning today. With 2.5 kilometers straight right to the finish, and Cipollini couldn't ask for any more. Slightly going downhill as well for the finish. So it's going to be a very, very fast sprint today. I think that Jalabert will be in there as well, because he'll be trying to get a little bit more time out of the likes of Durand, because tomorrow with the Castorama team, they're quite likely to do a very, very good time, the team time trial. So if Jalabert wants to secure the jersey for another few days, he will have to get as much time as he can today, and with the time bonus in the finish line today, it's an ideal opportunity for him to get more time. So I think today here we're going to live in a fantastic sprint.
Well, those time bonuses are vital at the end. That's already been helping some of the riders close that gap on Jackie Durand. Only seconds really covering most of the field at the moment, and let's update you if you haven't caught up with it in your national newspapers this morning or heard it on Radio 5, that's doing a great job here as well. But the overall classification led by Jackie Durand, best placed one who might be there on the rostrum in Paris, Zulla's 15th at the moment, 23 seconds down. Charlie Romiger's in 19th spot, 26 seconds down. Miguel Indurain this morning was 23rd overall, 31 seconds down. And those are sort of likely challenges. One of the men that we mentioned, Berzin, who, unlucky 13, somebody else had a bit of a puncture here and has drifted off the back. It's Bataro, who he's got to do it all on his own. They won't send anybody back to help him. Well, there are a couple of blokes up in front, so perhaps he changed the wheel for one of his rides. Berzin rides with that Gavis team. In fact, I was speaking to one of the Gavis drivers the other day. He said he listens all the time to Eurosport in Italy when he can pick it up at home and so on. So we've got we know viewers out in Italy as well. We aren't yet broadcasting in Italian, but maybe at some point Steve will give them a few words in Italian, because he seems to speak Italian as well as he does English and French at the moment, having worked with Italian television as well. And it looks like Gavis might have a little bit of problem here, Stephen.
Well, like normally early on the Tour de France, doesn't matter who punctures, there's always one or two riders who wait for them, because you can imagine, for example, now if the heat goes down the front and the riders start riding really, really fast, one rider punctures and he gets eliminated because nobody waited for him. Like, every team needs all their men for as long as they can in the Tour de France. So it doesn't matter who you are in the first week or 10 days of the Tour de France. It doesn't matter who you are, whether it be a guy that goes back against Bontas for the leaders. You always get at least one or two riders who are designated to wait for that rider, because nobody wants to, like, you get eliminated easy enough in Tour de France, so nobody wants to kind of look for elimination because some riders are unfortunate to puncture, to leave them out there on his own.
And the Gavis team we saw just down the road there, their best player, well, their top man Berzin is 78th at the moment, 1 minute and 7 seconds down. But when we get to the time trials and the mountains, that's not too bad, because really whilst he's that much down on the yellow jersey, he's only some 36 seconds behind Indurain, and just another few seconds behind Romiger and a few seconds behind Zulla, because they were the riders that got the misfortune to start on the Prologue time trial in the rainy conditions when the whole course was like a sketch very much. They've gone down again. This, as I said before, is one of the problems. Two of the riders have just hit the deck, and that's a great disappointment. But Calage down here, Calage is one of the white hopes of Italy. He's in this combined team of Telecom and ZG Selle Italia. There are just three of them from the ZG team: Calage, Fedigato, and Nelson Rodriguez. Rodriguez, the man who won the stage last year in the Tour de France, a great climber as well. But Calage is a good all-rounder, and we're probably going to see him go well when we get into the mountains as well. They're the three men in that combined team with Telecom, and now here's going to be the problem with the team getting him back, and it looks like he's managed to jam his chain into his gears.
In this situation, you shouldn't even be trying to repair it. Just give him your bike and let him go, because at this stage of the race, in the last 40 kilometers, the heat is really on the front. As you can see here, the line's getting longer and longer, so he's still having trouble. Like, why not change the bike?
Well, there again, you see,
major here.
When change the bike, he's riding in his mixed team. He's a very small fella too, you know. I wonder what they're doing here, because Telecom are mainly tall, big German riders, and both Fedigatos, Calage and Nelson Rodriguez are quite short, chunky riders.
They are, but then there was the opportunity for them, for Telecom and ZG to get into the Tour de France. So that's something you kind of say, well, we got over that on the road. But Calage is a very, very good rider. As you see, Berzin here on a screen. Calage is a very, very good rider, but something about him, he goes really, really well in the early part of the season. He goes reasonably okay in Tour of Italy, and then when he gets to July and August, he's just gone. He just hasn't got the stamina or the whatever it needs to be there in July. He just never seems to be able to make it. But Nelson Rodriguez, actually, he really fell off 4 times yesterday, and has already fallen off once today. Like Nelson Rodriguez, we call him Kakao because his name is Nelson Kakao Rodriguez. We call him Kakao, which means like chocolate in French, or in Italian it means chocolate. But he's all the time falling off. He gets up on his bike and he laughs. He's a smart little guy. He's actually the smallest guy in the peloton, so he is.
Kakaito Rodriguez, also, I don't understand he got his name, but we might think he's small, looking like a bit of chocolate, because he used to sell chocolate ice creams many years ago.
That's right.
Van der Aarden and Maassen just put in the picture on the overall classification. Maassen lying in 100th place, 1 minute 21 seconds down, and Van der Aarden 131st place, 1 minute 51 seconds down on the general classification. No great threat overall, but both of them looking for yet another victory in the Tour de France. Both of them have won stage in the past. Frans Maassen won the stage in 1990 at Futuroscope, and Van der Aarden, I said he's had that green jersey in the past as well, collected quite a number of stage victories. He took one in 1983 at Fontenay-sous-Bois, which in fact was the prologue, but just shows you he's quite capable of going flat out for up to around about 6-7 kilometres. 1984, he took the stage in Pau, and again he got the stage that year in the finish in Paris, and that's one they all tried to get. And in 1985 he took a stage at Villard-de-Lans in the time trial, and he also took a stage in Bordeaux where all the sprinters want to go as well. So they're on the little cog, the big cog on the front. They're hammering along now. The gap is coming down, but they're heading in towards the finish. Both these two desperately keen to stay away from this fast-moving pack. They're after them, but well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for our two leaders. The field streaming in toward the finish. The sprinters now begin to lick their lips, but they've still got to pull back that gap with those two riders up in front. Maassen and Van der Aarden have set a very hot pace with this falling wind whipping these riders along. The sun is on their backs and they're heading in towards the finish in Vitre. The last time we finished here was in 1985 when Mattis won the stage. And it's a beautiful, very picturesque town indeed. And the Onse team have now drifted off the front. They've been driving this one along, but they must be looking now at the sprinters team to take over, Stephen. Well,
they have one sprinter themselves in their team. They have Jalabert, but what they want is somebody to help them. They don't want to do all the work themselves, so they want to be able to lead Jalabert out for the sprint in the end. You don't want to be using up all the energy now, even though they are at the same time defending the yellow jersey. But these two boys in the front, they are over a minute down on GC, so you know they haven't got to get them back. So they don't want to. If they ride and bring those two guys in the front, catch them back, there'll be somebody else who'll be attacking. So they don't want that. But at this moment, what they do want is a little bit of help from the other sprinters' teams, likes of Mercatono Uno, and so they can help them save some energy for the finish, so that they can give Laurent Jalabert a good lead out for the finish as well if he needs it.
Well, we've got that sprint at the 14.5 kilometres to go at Shuttleburg, and that's going to be a very tricky one indeed. Let's hope they stay upright. We've had a few tumultuous and crashes that we've seen so far, and the Etienne are driving this one along. Jalabert would like to take those 20 seconds bonus when they get to the finish line, if only they can catch the two men back that are in the lead right now. The bonuses then for the riders to cross the line. They've been getting 6, 4 and 2 in the sprints we've had so far, 2 of the 3 and 1 to come up later on. And on the line there'll be 20 seconds, 12 and 8 for the top 3 riders at the end of the race today. So there's a lot at stake still on this flat stage here. They head into Vitre, which is a lovely little town, and it's got a superb 14th century castle on the River Vilaine, and it actually is almost like Dinan. We were there the other day, and I looked at the two towns. They're so similar as such, but they are almost in a medieval time warp as such. Lovely old houses here, and that castle, which I hope we get a shot of it at some point. Because we're not far from the Chateau de Roche-Sévigné, which is home of that great letter of the 17th century, the Marquis de Sévigné. So it's a very historical part of Brittany, although we're moving out and getting further and further away from the coastal line now. We're sort of way down. I know a lot of people want to find out where it is. The actual route that we've taken today, which started right on the coastline at Perros Guirec, and if you look at your maps, if you know some, you'll get them out there, France, right up there on the top end of Brittany. They run down, just circuiting Saint-Brieuc, where we were the other day, and heading straight down in a sort of westerly direction, skirting Rennes. We've gone round the big town of Rennes. Of course, that is well known to Sean Yates, who grabbed his yellow jersey in Rennes last year. We've gone round the north side of Rennes and heading into Vitre, and that is where the stage will finish today, when the riders will have covered just under 150 miles, in fact 235 kilometres on this stage 2 of the Tour de France. Commissaires are ever vigilant about what's going on here, and the officials keeping a tight eye on the race, and let's hope that we don't have any problems, technical or otherwise, of pushing and shoving, because Cipollini, to his cost, got himself relegated in the Tour of Italy for grabbing the hip of a man and pulling himself through, and in fact he did it something about 300 metres from the finish and found the gap, went through, won the stage, and then later on the commissaires had actually spotted it, and he'd been up there getting his flowers of victory and everything else when they threw him off the result sheet, but he wasn't really happy about that one. So he still counts that as a victory, by the way, as he's got 15 victories now, although technically he's got 14, he says 15.
But this morning in the first sprint of the day, when Abdul-Jabbarov won, he actually pushed Jalabert. So I don't know, maybe that Jalabert has a jersey now, he won't say anything about it, but this morning I spoke to his one of the members of Jalabert's team, one of the soigneurs, and he was saying that Jalabert wouldn't be too happy, and he heard his director sportif talking to the other second car on the car radio, and they're saying that this just cannot keep going. We have to talk about it tonight and maybe do something about it. But now on the second sprint, Jalabert now has taken up on the jersey, so maybe they might just let it go rather than start making some kind of a story out of it. But Cipollini is well known for that, and I'm sure today, if you're watching very closely the sprint today, if Cipollini is in there, and I'm sure he will be in there, I'm sure we watch very closely because he's very, very dangerous.
So that is yet to come. Two men still in the lead by about 40 seconds. The motorcycles begin to move forward, so perhaps that gap is coming down to less than 40 seconds as the officials here, I think they're checking very carefully. Just 29 kilometres to go towards the finish, and the sprints that we've been talking about, the specialist sprinters, people like Cipollini, Abdul-Jabbarov, and of course Jalabert. At one time he has had the green jersey in the Tour de France as a sprint specialist too. He's no slouch. He's lost a bit of weight this year, which enabled him to do a nice good uphill sprint yesterday to get himself a second place and collect those vital bonus points which I told you about, because that's what helped him up into the challenging position for Jackie Duron by taking 12 seconds bonus yesterday, and he'll be looking, I think, to repeat the dose again today. So he's a very useful sprinter too. Abdul-Jabbarov is a man who of course sprints from left to right, depends which way you're looking at him, mind you, but I've never seen Abdul sprint in a straight line yet.
It doesn't matter where you're looking at him from, it depends who's coming from behind him. If somebody's coming from the left, he goes to the left. If someone's coming from the right, he goes to the right. So
it's all by accident though, of course.
Oh, well, he's an incredible sprinter. He just has so much power. He's one of the few riders that actually sprints on the 11 sprocket, where I used to think that 53.30 and 53.12 were big gears. Now he goes on to 11, next to his falling teeth on the axle, and using the axle for a gear. But he's a very, very strong rider, and he's all the time looking under his arms for left to right, looking to see if somebody's coming through. And he's very, very strong over the last 50 metres or so.
Well, we'll be concentrating on that sprint finish and to see whether the yellow jersey moves off the shoulders of Jackie Durand. Just 28 seconds the gap now. I said he might be getting down closer to this finish today. And just once again to remind you all of the overall classification. Jackie Durand this morning started out in first place, 2 seconds ahead of Brochard of Festina. Laurent was in third spot, just 2 seconds back as well, because a bit of a disappointment yesterday for Francis Moreau. He took a wrong turning coming in toward the finish, and that dropped him off the leaderboard. He's now down in 20th place at 27 seconds. So those are the top 3. Laurent Jalabert moving up to 6th spot with 7 seconds deficit on Jackie Durand by his splendid second place yesterday. And the rest of the top men in the general classification hunt later on will be people like Alex Zuller, 15th, 23 seconds down. Rominger, 19th this morning, 26 seconds down. Indurain in 23rd spot, 31 seconds down. And Berzin back in 78th spot, 1 minute and 7 seconds. The English-speaking riders, the best placed one at the moment is Maximiliano Ciandri, a fine English name, that one. The Derby-born Italian, now with British passport, is in 50th spot, 52 seconds down over on classification. Lance Armstrong, 1 minute 7 seconds back in 76th spot. Sean Yates is 88th, 1 minute 13 seconds back. And let's see what else we got down here in the English-speaking ride as well. I just know Stephen Hodge, I found him down here, 146 at 157. There'll be some more if I just check him up for you in a moment. He was quite well placed. He did a reasonable time trial ride, didn't he? We'll pick him out in just a minute for you. But let's just give you a rundown on some of the English-speaking riders. No, we haven't found him, but we'll come back to that later on. So the pink jerseys of the Onsay team. Nielsen just got him as. In fact, he's 49th at the moment, just 1 place ahead of Maximilian Chiandri. He's 51 seconds in arrears, so that gives you people from Great Britain something to be interested in. Although, of course, we do have the English broadcast going out all over Europe, and many people in other parts of the world listen to it. And I was talking to a man from Sweden who's on the race at the moment. He says he listens to Eurosport in English when it isn't in his own Swedish national language up there. And here we are, Sevron-sur-Ville, 9 kilometres covered, just 25 kilometres to go, and the final sprint of the day. I'm just wondering whether the Onsay people might try and pull them back before we get to that one, because that's where those extra 6, 4 and 2 bonuses are, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for that, because that's with 21 kilometres from the finish. I think I said 14.5. I must have remembered yesterday, but it's 21.5 kilometres. So we've only got now, as the Onsays have been to get themselves all welded up on the front, we've only got about 3.5 kilometres before the next sprint, and it's a very, very tricky one indeed. As I said to you earlier on, it's a downhill swoop. It's 1,000 metres to go. They swoop down a hill. They go over one of these ramps, the sleeping policeman, and it is it's about 6 or 8 inches high, and it's got about a yard of rise, and then it goes flat, and then it goes down the other side. And that one, if you take it a great rate or not, you'll almost leap into the air. That's about halfway down the hill, and then at the bottom, it is an absolute sheer right-hand turn, and it narrows down. It goes to half the width. Then they go along about 300 metres, no, about 200 metres, and turn sharp left again, and the road opens up. It's very wide, and it goes up to the finish, and most of the last 500 metres or so are a long drag up to get the points of 6, 4 and 2, which will help Jalabert if he can get up there. So his pink jerseys are doing what they can at the front. Just hope the Dimension Sporty have been looking closely at the maps or talking to some of the local riders and realise how tricky that's going to be. But keep our fingers crossed for all these riders. We don't like anybody to be eliminated, because they're all psyched up, Steve. Now they ride this race, and when you get problems with the course like we've seen, we saw it yesterday, we saw it at the Prologue Time Trial. Our sympathies there with Chris Bourman, who crashed so badly on that Prologue Time Trial now at the race, that really you psych yourself for this Tour de France, and if you're out for something like that, it must be terrible disappointment.
Look at Jalabert last year, Jalabert and Nielsen last year. They were all psyched up, each of them trying to win the green jersey, and they fell off because of an extra sporting accident, like the policeman standing on the side of the road taking a photograph for some young kid, and he brought 2 of them down, nearly ended the career, but ended their, lucky enough, only ended their Tour de France bid. But these things always happen, and it's a very, very unfortunate too. There's enough natural obstacles in the Tour de France or in any race without actually, or not actually being put out of the race because of something stupid.
And the biggest natural obstacle are called the Alps and the Pyrenees, and we should be down there.
From medical problems, cold or flu or any kind of saddle sore or anything else. There's not natural things there rather than having a barrier fall down in front of you or somebody walk across the road.
Yeah, you were saying yesterday somebody had a barrier blow down on them in the time trial.
It was the rider of the Carrera team. What's his name? Bartolo.
Oh, your man right at the back. Yes.
He was actually, we were very, very surprised to see him actually down 2 minutes, losing 2 minutes in the time trial the other day. But what actually happened was he was riding along, and the wind caught a barrier and blew the barriers down in front of him and brought him down. So that was an extra. It wasn't a normal, natural incident. That was something. It was a fluke incident that would never happen normally. But the poor guy was nearly out of the race of it.
The other big problem, problem, because I know the Swanias try and do the best they can, but you're moving around the different part of the countryside. You could be drinking different water. You could be eating different types of food, even though it is ordered specially. They may cook it in different ways. I know some riders do get stomach trouble for 3 weeks, and having to be in the saddle for anywhere between 5 and 7 hours, eating the things you're eating during the day, then having different meals in the morning and at night. But whilst they try and do have a special food, your stomach can also be a bit of a problem too. But that's one of those things that riders had to put up with in a great race like the Tour de France. On the front, this Spanish team, and Spanish tummy is a well-known thing. Did you ever trouble in that way, Stephen?
I was always very, very lucky, but we always say that a fit man is a sick man. It's like a Formula 1 racing car. Like they're very, very highly tuned, and the smallest little thing, whether it be petrol or whatever, can put you off. So in the Tour de France, the last week is always very, very important. I would see here Claudia Capuchina coming to front with the Carrera team. Like these roads here are very, very narrow. So the real leaders in the team, I would probably see some of them coming to the front now with the final also approaching. And there's also the sprint preem coming up now shortly as well. But the Tour de France is always one of the races where you get sometimes you get nearly 50% dropping out because of one thing or another. Some because of accidents, some because they're too tired, certain because of injury and what have you. So the Tour de France is a very, very punishing event. But actually, I remember a situation a few years ago where everybody in one hotel all got sick, and they're wondering what the story was. But everybody got sick except for one person, one team. That was the Belgium team. As actually found out was the rest of the teams got food poisoning from fish that they ate. But the Belgians ate the same fish, but they also drank beer. Whereas the acids in the beer and what have you actually killed the bug that was in the fish. So the Belgians were the only ones that were not sick, but everybody else that was in the same hotel that ate fish were all sick. So it just goes to show you that beer is not all the time bad.
Well, that's my excuse then. Now I've got it. I never suffered from stomach trouble. I never realised that's what it was. Well, these two riders here getting close to that special sprint, and the gap coming down all the time. Who just joined us on Eurosport. We're on the stage 2, Perros Guirec-Vitre, 235 kilometres, and that's nearly 150 English miles we covered. And the breakaway of Martin and Van der Arden, they've been actually out there now for something around about nearly 50 minutes or so. So they've been probably about 40 kilometres, or getting towards 40 kilometres out on their own. The attack was launched by Eric Van der Arden, who jumped away, and Martin went across to him. And these two stalwarts of the long lone effort are now hammering on, hoping. Here we are. This is the sprint come out. Now this is the one that I hope we go back more to the main field, Stephen, because if they 1,000 meters, they get to here, they now start to go downhill, and then we're going to have that sharp right and sharp left. So we keep our fingers crossed to all these riders. There's a big field coming on behind. The gap has come down now quite considerably, and trying to squeeze all those riders round. So we've had a couple of retirements today. Here, well, this is the speed jump they're coming to now. We are. That's the jump there. Whoops. If the front's coming in faster than that, you'll see. Then there's a sharp right turn at the bottom, and then there's going to be a sharp left.
You make it think that they're asking for trouble, really, isn't it? Like there isn't enough natural obstacles in the race now.
Putting a sprint like this,
you can imagine Jalabert, Abdel-Jabbarov and Cipollini fighting for seconds here. Like there'll be bodies everywhere.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed for the big sprinters behind us. So it's nice and wide here now. Why they didn't move it further on up and make the 1,000 metre start there, I just don't know. Perhaps they wanted it on this long climb so the crowd could come out and watch the riders go through. So these two are safely round, and the big bunch will be now descending onto that. Let's hope our helicopter picks them up from the top, and thank goodness again that it's a nice dry day today. And there they go. They're down that sharp right-hander and out the saddle then. Jackie Durand is going because he realises that...
Jalabert on his wheel, though. Jalabert on his wheel.
See, Jalabert, the 6-4 and 2 bonus seconds here, and the 6 and 4 will have gone to those 2 men down the road. Jalabert wants to pinch another couple of seconds on Jackie Durand, who tried to go for a long one, but Jalabert making it look so easy at the moment. As up comes on the first one over the line will be Marson, and then we have Van der Rande. They're looking back now to see that Jalabert is powering up here to get himself another couple of seconds, and that really has put the yellow jersey on his shoulders. I don't think in this final sprint we've got coming along here that Durand will be able to stay with him on that sprint. So Jalabert powering up. He makes it look so easy collecting those 2 seconds.
But he's the only one that's really going for it. Jackie Durand tried going for a long one because he knew that in a pure sprint he wouldn't have been able to beat Jalabert. So he had to go for a long one, but Jalabert was watching him and waiting for him to do something, so he was onto his wheel straight away. But it's important that Jalabert gains as much time as he can for the moment, because the Unsi team will do a very good time trial tomorrow, I think. And I think tomorrow, my favourites for tomorrow are the Castorama team, but Castorama, Unsi, Banesto, Malpe, they're all at this moment going very good in team time trials, and tomorrow this team time trial is going to be vital because it will determine the positions amongst the hierarchy of the individual time trial in 4 days' time. Because if, for example, tomorrow Banestos go really well and they go better than the Malpe team, it means that Indurain could be off behind Rominger in the time trial in 5 days' time. So it gets back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, that a top rider calculates the Tour de France in 4 or 5 different stages. The first one being the prologue, second one being the first stage, then the first individual time trial. And it's very important, if you have the advantage of starting off a leader, the likes of Rominger is a great advantage if you can start off behind Indurain or vice versa. So these boys now are calculating like this at the moment and hoping that tomorrow's team time trial will give them a situation whereby in 4 days' time, for the second stage in their books, they will be off behind a good rider so they can get good time checks on him.
And that is yet to come. The Tour de France, as Stephen explained to you here, is a great race. It's got tremendous interest all over the world. Not only those who are listening to us on Eurosport here can pick it up, which is very much a European event, the Tour de France we may call it, but so many riders from all over Europe. We're getting, of course, now begin to ride from elsewhere than Europe, and I'm looking forward to seeing the first Japanese rider in the Tour de France sometime in the future. They are beginning to come into the pro scene at the moment, and the Americans, of course, got great interest here with the Motorola team and the Americans riding in that team. And of course they've had Greg LeMond, past victor in the Tour de France. He was the one who opened up the Americans' eyes to this great event, and if they don't see much more of the cycling, so they watch it on ESPN, the American cable network, who've gotten involved with Eurosport as well. The crews are out here. There is a Japanese crew as well out here to cover it. It's covered out in Australia and South Africa, and other satellite TV nations across Southeast Asia picked up highlights from it as well. So it's watched by millions of people all over the world, this great sporting spectacle. And so now, as I begin to go along, if you've not been watching cycle racing much in the past, the whole action now will centre, I think, round the sprints. And what we're going to see now is the sprinting teams coming forward. That red and black colour we've got on the front then with the Lotto team, who've got Nelson itching for victory. The other one we're going to look for will be the pale blue jersey of the Mercatone Seiko Uno team, which will be the ones trying to bring forward Cipollini. But the pink jerseys are not going to go far off the front. They want to keep Jalabert in contention. 13 seconds, that's all that separates this group of riders from the two escapers, Van der Arden and Martin, who've been out now for just around about an hour's racing, but it looks like their moment of glory is going to be over. The way this fast-moving peloton is trying to cut their deficit, and they'll be with them before long. Oh, a crash test, that's the problem. We're talking about the difficulties of having barriers in the centre, or the keep left signs, and that's a right thumping bang. Miranda has gone down now. Vanesso's having also the problems. One of the other riders dropped off Uriarte when we turned sharp left. He didn't seem to be too badly damaged, but he will now just try and get back and give his deficit as little as possible. He's really not a counter in their team, other than a man to help in the time trial tomorrow. Let's hope he's not been injured, to help Indurain in his attempt to close that gap on the yellow jersey.
Van der Arden's having a go on his own. Yeah, he's having a go on his own. The other day we were saying maybe he's going over the hill. It's great to see him doing so, getting into the front of time trials, what have you again. But here he is, spending 40 kilometres out in the front and still having a go. So maybe he is having maybe he's kind of knocked a few years off his watch maybe, and he's
it's also when they change teams, isn't it? Because he's gone to this team. He rode for a long time with first with Peter Post and then with Jan Raas. He's always been mainly with the Dutch type-based teams, hasn't he, or Belgian type-based teams? And here he's suddenly switching over to Brescia, an Italian team which is involved in the milk business, and he's suddenly
crash. Pascal Hervé is down. Pascal Hervé had a great ride in the Tour de France last year. He was finished up in the first 15. People have probably really only discovered him last year because he went professional at a late age of 27, 28, and everybody says, well, he's too old to become a professional. But he actually did a great Tour de France last year and helped Richard Virenque a lot. And this year hasn't actually confirmed it, but he has promised everybody that he will be back to good form for the Tour de France.
You can see the problems then with this bunch switching from one side to another, trying to get themselves positioned to get the fast men through for the sprint, and the easy touch of wheel and down you go. Or if you don't keep your wits about you, suddenly discover that the keep left side or keep right side, as the case may be in France, and you thump into one of those and down you go. This man then off on his own. He took stage 1 in the Tour of Luxembourg just a few weeks ago in a fine style. He beat Zabel in the sprint that time at Baffy, which shows he's not lost his sprinting ability, which gave him that green points jersey in the Tour de France. And the rest of the field welling up behind him. This is playing straight into the hands of Van der Aert at the moment.
Of course it is, yes. But yesterday actually I was going back to the crashes again, and this big bunch. I spoke to the doctor this morning, and they were saying yesterday they recorded 22 crashes yesterday in the bunch.
22?
So, like, even though we don't see a lot of them on our screens, they recorded 22 crashes yesterday in the final. But here we have Lotto team going to the front now, helping out the Once team for Andre Schmil. And I spoke to him this morning as well, and I was asking him, well, yesterday I thought it was going to be your day because it would have been an uphill finish. I thought it would have suited you. He says, yesterday was a great finish for me yesterday, but he says, after the Dauphiné where I got really good form, I got 38 fever and I was on antibiotics all the time. So I'm only kind of eliminating it now. If it had been warm in the first 2 or 3 days, I would have eliminated things much earlier. But I was very happy with my placing yesterday. So hopefully now from day to day, my places will get better, my condition will get better, I'm sure. And hopefully by the Belgium stages, I hopefully should win a stage.
By the time he used to live in near Roubaix, didn't he? I think he moved down south somewhere, but certainly he will be waiting to show up there, because of course he won the Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago, and those very bad conditions indeed. The hard man now has just been caught. Van der Aerden's moment of glory then have gone, but he's had a good go, and straight away then the speed is up at the front as the Lotto team are there.
We have Gianni Buna there in second place. I wonder what Gianni's doing in there. Like he hasn't got a sprinter on his team. He hasn't been showing very well in the yesterday or in the prologue, but he has said, of course, that he will be back to have a great Tour de France, even though he wasn't doing very well on the Tour of Switzerland or on the Tour of Italy. He has promised everybody that he will be back for the Tour de France, and here he is in the front.
Well, he's got to do something, because he knocked the Tour of Italy on the head, didn't he, to prepare for this one. He rode a modest Tour of Switzerland as such.
He comes back and wins the Italian Championships.
Yep. So
now here he is in the Tour, so he has promised everybody that he will do well. So I think it's possibly for Gianni, it's possibly his last hope of the year to do well, apart from the World Championships, because he has been, as we know, twice World Champion. He seems to be able to perform for one-day events, although he won the Tour of Italy a few years ago as well. But since then he hasn't confirmed his potential in the major tours.
And he started the season quite well this year in the Tour of the Mediterranean. He took a couple of stages, the 6th and 7th stage, and became the overall victor in the end. But that was quite at the back end of the race. So sorry, that was the early part of the season. He came good at the back end of the race, and we'll have to see now if his restoration to form will be rewarded with a stage victory, because I think that's probably what he's more likely looking for. It's certainly like every rider would like a place on the podium, but a stage I think would suit Gianni Bugno as well. The field then all massed together at the moment, and that beautiful town of Vitre just awaiting the arrival. Nice medieval town. I mentioned it's so similar to Dinan where we were just the other day as well. And a lot of people just get in their motor cars and belt down. If I was talking to some people on the boat when I came over the other day into St Malo, and they were actually just going overnight on the boat. They got out the car at St Malo, and I said, where are you going? It's Spain. The whole thing was just going wham straight down to Spain. Well, I know the sun shines down, and Spain's a very nice place, but they obviously took to all the main roads. A little detour into parts of Brittany would have been a worthwhile little trip. If you just say, well, we'll book a holiday. We'll take 2 days to get down, or 3 days to get down, then we'll go off the main roads and have a little look at some of the countryside and get some tourist books and just stop and park the car car and walk through the old towns and just see things other way, because this part of the world, they haven't had sort of wars going across. We're going to go up in towards Belgium and northern France, where great world wars have been thrashing around all over the place and bombs have been falling, but in this neck of the woods, except when the Vikings landed many years ago, there haven't been much in the way of wars and problems and tribulations. So the old buildings are still there, and thankfully they haven't been bulldozed down to build a new office blocks. So the life has gone on, the farming community out here, the fishing community along the banks of the sea, and this thing is beginning to break up a bit. But these are the riders, presumably, Steve, have no catch chance in hell in the sprint.
No, but at the same time they're working for their team sprinters. Like some of these teams in the front here, who are in the front, we cannot see it here from our screens who they are at this moment actually, but they're just keeping the peloton drawn as fast as they can. First of all, they have a chance of doing well themselves. Second of all, they're getting their mark on the television, and third of all, if they're making a more comfortable ride for their teammate who is a sprinter back in the bunch. You see here Lotto rider here. It's actually Chmil actually. Then we have
is that Volpe?
No, Volpe's not in it. Volpe's gone home, I think, today. Volpe was here this morning.
It's Frattini now. This is the car. He's always prepared to have a go.
Volpe actually has tendonitis or a sick or something. I heard he was abandoned this morning shortly after the start.
Ah, right. I didn't catch up with that one, but certainly here, Frattini is another rider that's been tipped as a up-and-coming young fellow, but I wouldn't have thought that he's going to be in for the sprint, so he's doing just what he should be doing, and that's going off on the front at the moment to try and spread him out a little bit. And
there's a crosswind here as well, David. You see there in the right-hand side gutter. There's a crosswind here. So it makes it Skippy. We were talking about him yesterday. We thought we would have seen him yesterday, but to prove that Skippy is actually still on form. Skippy's got a great chance over the next day or two, especially with the stage up around Liège.
Well, Frattini was the man who won the Grand Prix of Frankfurt. That's surprised by a number of people. He got away there, Hempner taking second place, and Frattini went off on a lone break and managed to get himself a World Cup victory, and that was a very good ride indeed for him. And he'd also early on during this had set the people's tongues wagging by his early season performances as well. So let's see what he can do today. The Once team still massing at the front, and you can see the pink and blue colours. That's Lamprey, obviously setting it up for Sarada. He's their best sprinter man. Abdul Japrov is there, number 61.
Fondres also is.
Fondres is quick too. He's a sort of Fondres type sprint, isn't it?
It would be alright. So this kind of riding would suit him as well. We see the Once team here keeping into the right hand side of the road. You see Jalabert here riding third position, so it means that the first two riders in front of Jalabert giving him shelter. As the further back they go in the line, the more wind they're getting, because the wind on the side is coming in from the left. If the Once riders move more to the left hand side of the road here, it would give all the riders behind them more shelter. But they don't want. It's a group here split actually, but you can see what happens is. I see here the group is split here. What happens is the wind is coming in from the left, so if you stay on the right hand side, the rider in front of you, you're getting shelter, and everyone keeps fighting until eventually somebody lets the wheel go. As what's happened here, somebody's let the wheel go, but this can be very, very dangerous now for somebody that's actually there with hopes of winning the overall. If he's back here, you see here Protostima going across, Jackie Durham wasn't there, Kapuch is there as well, he's left behind. It's a very, very important part of the race here, because the only riders in front with Jalabert. It's interesting to see now where Indurain is. If Indurain's behind, it'll be panic for them as well. And the only riders now, I say, will just keep this pressure on as long as they can, hoping that there'll be some of the favourites behind.
And what they call grovelling in the gutter time, isn't it? Really?
Perzine is there.
Nice move.
Bunyo is there as well.
Abdul Japrov is there as well. And he looks very smooth, doesn't he?
He does. He's actually probably riding for Baldato, I'd say, but at the same time riding for himself. So
that was Bunyo in the green, white and red colours of the champion of Italy. Beyonce still in the pink, and Skibby trying it again on the other side.
This is a great opportunity, 20 kilometres to go. It's a great opportunity for the Jalabert to gain time on the other rivals. Spotani is here, Fondres is there.
So most of the top of the plate at front,
Indurain. But which group is this today? This is the first group or second group?
Hang on, this is the second group, I think.
Don't need to be very, very panicky today.
No, there's Frattini again. Well, hang on.
It's the first group, all the boys are there, yeah.
That's Frattini who started, he's going yet again.
Yeah.
It is the first
Jalabert is going after him.
Well, isn't that a bit strange?
It is very strange, yeah.
To use up some strength like that, because Fatimi's no threat to him at all,
but also having his own teammates there, why chase after a guy like that? His own teammates will keep his tempo up and get him down in no time. So all he's actually doing is actually isolating himself. Imagine if he goes away and he stay away in a group, he's isolating himself from his teammates. So in this situation, he should be more or less staying with his team, letting his team just ride along a nice tempo, just to show everybody that it doesn't matter who you are, we're going to go after you.
Looks like they begin to work their way back one by one, but I can see that Fondres is certainly in there. That's Gonchenkov that's riding with him as well. And Gonchenkov looked back to see where Fondres was, so at least Fondres has got a lead up. And look at him coming down here. The cavalry is in hot pursuit. I love this sort of thing with all set all over the place. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great. But if like this is the difference between cycling, I won't say back in my generation and today, is because when you get a group of top riders in the front like we have here today. Years ago, they would go, everyone would keep riding and riding and riding, and because they would say to themselves, well, there's 200 riders in the group. If I stay in the group, I have one chance at 200 of doing well. If it's 25 riders in the front, well, I have one chance at 25 to do well. So I'm better off staying in the front. But if we started there a few minutes ago, the riders in the front, there was only the Onsi riders riding, whereas Injuram was there, Fontani was there, Berzin was there. If they all put their hands together and ride, and just think about, well, okay, we can eliminate some of the other riders today, it'd be better. Whereas today's generation don't do that. They always feel, well, I don't want to ride today because maybe I'll be tired for tomorrow, or they're always saving something. So I don't want to be saying that, well, they don't do things right. I was thinking Capucci here having a go. Capucci is on form with this song yesterday and they finally had a go. But very difficult to get away under this circumstance because the speed is up all the time.
And he's recognising too, he's losing ground on people like Indurain and Berzin who are in that front group as well. And hang on, no, this is the leading group, isn't it?
I don't think so. It's going to be the second group, Dave.
Well, you see, normally what is confusing me, we normally have Moto 1 and Moto 2 up, but they're not doing it this year, so it's making it very difficult. We have to pick up on different riders, and they're doing different things as well. No, this is the first group. This is the first group, yeah.
But we didn't see Rominger in the front group, though, Dave. Because Taffy here is not riding.
I'll tell you who wasn't in the front group when we had the shot from the helicopter was Nielsen. Nielsen was in the back group.
Yeah. Jalibert's here though.
Yeah, so this is the front group.
Jalibert's controlling.
Nielsen is in the back group.
Taffy is part of the Mappe team with Rominger, and Taffy's not riding. Taffy's trying to block here for the moment because Jaliber's behind. I'm sure of that. Well, almost sure of it. You can never be sure because we can't see everybody on our screen here. But Taffy's trying to do it, trying to break the rhythm up so that the second group might get back on again because his leader Rominger is not there.
And Simon from
don't know which group is in there once again. It's not our fault. We cannot give you the proper information because it's very difficult for us on our screen because we've no, I just said, whoa,
he's trying to go into the second group, isn't he? Because that's our leading group up there. So we know Simon was in chasing group, but this is the big bunch. And in fact, they're not chasing too well now, are they?
No, not chasing too well, no.
So anybody who's not made this one, that the time will be counted. They cross the line, and that could be about 10 seconds deficit the way they're going. That long snaking line of riders splits with about 20 men in the front group. Most of the top men are in that one. One or two have not made it. Recognise they've got to just try and cut those 2 seconds difference, not only to keep themselves in contention for their overall classification, but to help in the team time trial tomorrow to make sure their team is well represented up in the front lot. Balninger here from the Polti team, 22nd overall, 33 seconds. Well, he's ready to cut back on that gap as well. But it's a long old job, and they don't seem to be working together, do they, at all? We've seen one after the other go, and then they get stuck back in again.
That's a very surprising part about it. They can see the group ahead of them. If they get together now and ride, they can catch the group very, very easy. But going like this one at a time makes it very difficult to cut down any distance between them. I was going to say the French was.
That's the main group then, with 4 kilometres to go. And
this final 4 kilometres today is a little dangerous as well because they go through a town and there's no barriers either side of the road, and it's actually a shopping street, so there's an awful lot of people there. And I was coming through it about an hour ago.
The other thing too, it's quite a narrow road, isn't it? So, and it twists and turns a bit, not too bad. It's not full of right-hand and left-hand ones, but they'll be a bit out of sight, out of mind, won't they? I mean, one on these long straight stretches now, at least this second group can see what the gap is between them and the leaders. But as we start to go into the town and the roads narrow down a bit, that will also mean that you've got to be up near the front, because coming from the back to the front on those conditions is very, very difficult indeed. It's the beautiful part of the world, I said earlier, Vitre with its 14th century chateau. Here we are, the one Chateau de Vitre, and the ramparts round the old town, the medieval town here to welcome the Tour de France on the second stage. And a sprint finish it is likely to be, and the man in that leading group, Jalabert, technically, if you just turn into our program, is going to be the yellow jersey if he stays together with the Jackie Durand, because he's already collected enough bonuses on the 3 special sprints coming through. There, that beautiful picture, the medieval town in the background, and an attack coming up yet again.
You see, Taffy waited the Rominger's group got back on. Now Rominger's group now is back on again. Taffy has to go himself. This year he's had an exceptional year, so he has Taffy. He'd lost 7 kilos compared to last year. He was a teammate with myself back in Carrera. Very good rider, but always very heavy, using big gears. Once again, it's him using big gears here again, but he wasn't at all that slim. Now he's lost an awful lot of weight. 7 kilos for a rider like himself is an awful lot. So he's having a go here, but it's very, very highly unlikely he will stay away till the end.
And look at the speed. You can see from the buildings how fast these riders are closing down the gap. And Fondriest, this will suit him too. He's got the ability to go for a long straight. Winner of the Milan-San Remo, second this year in the Milan-San Remo when Jalabert pipped him at the post, so he's probably trying to get his own back now on Jalabert, and this again is a sort of finish that will suit Fondriest. Victor in the Kellogg's Pro Tour of Great Britain as well. Lovely, stylish, smooth rider. He had a lot of back trouble last year, but he's come good right now.
Skibby, Jalabert, Fondriest and Skibby.
2 stylish riders. This is sort of finish, isn't it?
They're 2 guys that can go with a kilometre. They're 2 guys that can go with a kilometre. They can stay away.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid that at the last 2 kilometres they was dead straight. So it's the guys behind, the sprinters behind, will have them in sight. So it's very difficult for them to stay away. But look at the gap they have now. A great gap, David.
And Skibby took that stage victory into Evero a couple of years. That was about a 1 kilometre gradual uphill climb toward the finish. So again, this sort of finish is going to suit him too.
The only problem is though, normally on paper, Fondriest is fast sprinter than Skibby. So the thing that might happen now is you find them getting to 300 metres from the line, they start looking at each other, and they bunch down and come back onto them. But they have a great chance of staying away for the moment.
And there is the long string of riders all spread out, trying to pull back these 2 escapers. Then Fondriest in the pink and the blue colours of Lamprey, and in the yellowish colours there of TVM, Jeska Skibby. What a character this man is, one of those real stalwarts of the game. He had a terrible crash, I think it was year before last, that's right, when he crashed and cracked his skull. He had a fractured skull. He then went training behind his father's little motorbike to get himself back into good form for the Tour de France, and he was rewarded with a stage victory there. Is he going to get this one now?
He's not sure of himself because he keeps looking around, looking here, he's easing up a bit, pulling off. He's not sure of himself at all. Fondriest is very sure of himself because he's riding through all the time. But Skibby here, you see, he's not sure of himself at all, which is quite normal when you come to a finish with Fondriest. Oh, here's Smil, because Smil has come back onto him again.
The speed of Tim coming up there, he's powering up and he's gone straight through them, and Chamil is just sucking in oxygen. He's got his mouth open, and these 2 don't know what to do now. Chamil went straight past them like they were stuck to tarmac. He jumped across, maybe about 10-second gap, and he's gone straight through.
Great ride by Chamil, fantastic. I spoke to him this morning.
And here comes Jalabert too. Jalabert, they've now absorbed Skibby and Fondriest, and still Chamil is in the lead. And can Chamil hang on this very gradual uphill? And Chamil is just digging deep into his reserves, and the gap is coming down now all the way. Lombardi there for the Polti team is getting a nice lead out too. You can see that Cipollini is down there too, but on the left there, Abdul-Japarov is coming at it now. Abdul-Japarov and Cipollini. Abdul-Japarov has now been overtaken. Cipollini's there in the blue on the front. On the far side there is Baldato going for it in the green. On the right hand side, Lombardi's fighting for the line. Cipollini's trying to get there for Abdul-Japarov comes at him, nearly takes it. Cipollini gets it. Abdul-Japarov alongside him, and looked like Lombardi there. I wouldn't like to say it was second or third. If Cipollini got that one, it was by a gnat's whisker. There was nothing much in it at all. But for second and third place, well, look at the state here as Skibby comes in. It just shows you how they got absolutely hammered toward the line. And this is the yellow jersey. Last time that he's going to wear that one, because Jackie Durand came across the line there. He will have been credited with about another, or debited another 5 or 7 seconds or so to Jalabert, who has taken the vital few seconds bonuses in the run-up through the 3 sprints he's had so far today. So Jalabert will take the yellow jersey, subject of course to official confirmation. And for my money, it looked like Cipollini got that one. Abdul-Japarov and Lombardi fighting for second place. We should be getting a picture from the side, a picture which will show the photo finish for second and third. But great disappointment for Chamil. You were really rooting for him then, Stephen.
Well, I spoke to him this morning. He's a guy that I like very much because he's a very great style of riding. He goes from the front and never says die. So this morning when I spoke to him, he was kind of saying, well, I was going very well in the Midi Libre and in Dauphiné, but I lost form then because I got sick. But hopefully it'll go back in a day or two. But I didn't think it would come back so quickly.
And there we are then, as Cipollini in the centre in the pale blue jersey. Abdul-Jafrov in the white with the red shoulder goes one way and then starts to come back again, but he can't get his elbow in front of Cipollini. Cipollini throws his arm up, and I think probably Abdul-Jafrov would not have been third.
Yeah, he was.
And the Polti-Rider, who I'm pretty sure was Lombardi, who got the final stage victory into Milan, will have got second place. Oh, there's elation for you. What's his 16th victory for the Lion King himself, takes the victory in Vitre on stage 2 of the Tour de France. Brilliant sprint, and let's look down at the man in the yellow, the Polti-Rider.
Coming through very, very fast, Dave.
Yeah, he was very quick, wasn't he?
Fast.
Yeah. And he goes straight past the lead-out man for Cipollini, jumps across there, tries to get shelter. Abdul-Jafrov is right in Cipollini's wheel, that little white shape behind the pale blue jersey. Abdul-Jafrov now starts to flick out the other way, and you see the rest all behind him. Jalabert is in the blue, is in the pinky colour, but he's not in with a shout for the bonuses. The bonuses only go to first, second, and third. They're more interested though in who wins the stage rather than bonuses come there. And on the line, Cipollini saying yes from Lombardi. Abdul-Jafrov was third. Confirmation then, it was Lombardi that got that second spot just ahead of Abdul-Jafrov, and the time 5 hours 26 minutes and 35 seconds. There the countdown on the rest of the riders coming up on the screen. But this is the quick way we do it on television, and sometimes they can make a mistake. The judges have to look at the photo finish, and of course what we don't know is any pushing and shoving further down the road has happened before, and sometimes riders get disqualified. It did look fairly straightforward to me though, giving Cipollini that victory. This man really is one of the most successful sprinters in the game. Bit of a playboy in the past, but since he's got married he's quietened down a bit, but he hasn't quietened down his sprint. And I'm just seeing Lombardi actually riding on those spinnergy wheels which have been banned.
Supposed to be banned.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw him this morning at the start, and I meant to say to him, but he's gone before I could get to him. But I see Baldato here in fourth.
Yeah, well, I hope they don't throw him out for using the wheels out of his position today. But it should have the official confirmation by the judges, and I wonder whether it has been published. They're not supposed to.
Exciting stage today then. Cipollini leading today's stage in 5:26.35. Second was Lombardi, third Abdul-Jafrov, and fourth Baldato and Moncousin in fifth place. Those point bonuses today keeping things very tight at the top, but it'll change a great deal tomorrow with that 57-kilometre team time trial stage, day 3 of the Tour de France, and everything to cycle for these men. Jalabert leads overall then by 5 seconds from Brochard, Thibaut, Durand and Laurent following on. French filling the first 5 places after 2 days of the Tour de France. So everything to go for tomorrow. Join us on Eurosport at 3:30 p.m. Central European time for our daily coverage of the Tour de France.